This is the WASH Systems Academy short video series, sharing views and experiences on WASH system strengthening. Can you provide some background of where you have been using the costing tools?
My name is Jeremiah Atengdem. I work with IRC Ghana as a water expert. In the IRC Ghana program, I have primary responsibility for our district-based work in Asutifi North District, where essentially we have been testing a district-based approach for achieving SDG 6 through a partnership approach with local government providing the leadership. In Asutifi North District, we work with both government and NGO partners to develop a WASH master plan. A critical component of this plan was determining the cost for delivering reliable and sustainable WASH services in Asutifi North District plan. So that has been my association with the use of the finance and budget tracking tool to be able to support the partnership, that's the Asutifi North District Based Initiative Partnership. First of all, to establish the overall cost for delivering the master plan for sanitation and for water. Secondly, to determine current levels of investment and also to establish the funding gap.
Can you mention a specific benefit of using costing tools?
The budget and finance tracking tool is extremely useful if clearly you want to raise the required resources to fund the delivery of WASH services.
Who can use the costing tools?
Yes, the tool can be used by government, can be used by NGO partners, can be used by civil society organizations. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to establish the holistic and true cost for delivering the service, and also to ascertain the current levels of investment or spending that is being done in support of the delivery of these services. But what is important is that it has to be, the process has to be agreed, and you must have buy-in of all other partners, because we also don't want a situation where government is doing budget tracking, NGOs are doing budget tracking, civil society organizations are doing budget. It has to be well coordinated and properly aligned. I would say there are two fundamental significant challenges that we've always faced in the data collection process. One is lack of disaggregated data by both cost categories and also by sectors. When I say cost categories, I'm talking about, the specific data about expenditure on capital expenditure, capital maintenance expenditure, operations and maintenance expenditure, and then direct support costs. And then we also have the challenge of this data not being disaggregated by sector. So, like, to be able to tell specifically how much has been spent on water, how much has been spent on sanitation delivery, how much has been spent on WASH in schools and in health facilities. So this data often is not disaggregated, particularly from the local government point of view. If you pick their cash books, pick their trial balances, the data is all lumped together. The second challenge we have faced is the poor record keeping by many service providers. When I talk about a service provider, I talk about those who manage both boreholes with hand pumps, and those who also manage pipe systems. Because usually we also want to establish how much expenditure has been made in respect of capital maintenance, how much expenditure has also been made in respect of operations and maintenance. But they don't keep the records. So usually the teams that do the data collection will speak to these service providers, and they are unable to provide the information. For example, how much have you spent in the last 1 year? How much went into salaries? How much went into procuring chemicals for water treatment? How much went into electricity? And that record is not easily available. And sometimes when it's available, the accuracy, reliability is also a bit of a challenge. Yes, so for the local government, what we've been doing, I think we've had about 2 trainings which are focused on the life cycle cost approach. So the training essentially is to help staff of the local government who are in the planning unit, who are in the finance department, to be able to understand the different cost categories so that they can properly capture their expenditures in a way that helps with planning, with budgeting and what have you. So that and once they have the skills, the tools, and this training, then any expenditure that is made, they are able to clearly tell where that expenditure belongs, and then that expenditure can be captured appropriately, so that in subsequent rounds of budget and finance tracking, it becomes easier to clearly map out the different costs. But over time, we are working and improving on the capacity of the service provider, giving them training, retraining, making sure the teams are properly, constituted, and you have the right caliber of people there, so that these records can improve, and that can have a direct bearing on the kind of data that we collect for our budget.
What investment is required for doing a full costing exercise in a district?
For time, I would say it can take a bit of time. It also depends on at what stage. So if you are yet starting this process, it means you are going in for a heavy budget and finance structure to establish the baseline. And this takes quite a bit of time. And as compared to somebody who already has the baseline and is now doing the routine annual budget tracking, and usually that one is a lighter version and tends to take less time and less resources. But if you are starting afresh, it means you need to do a very comprehensive baseline of where you are in terms of determining your time span within which you are operating, and looking at your required costs, looking at past investments so that you're able to establish the past strengths, and then also looking at the current investments, and then determining your financing gap. And I must say that can take between 3 and 6, between 4 and 7, 3 and 6 months, I would say 3 and 6 months, because the process is usually in 2 parts. There's a bit where you're collecting the data also from local government, you are looking at their books. So that mostly it's secondary data, because you're relying on their expenditure records, looking at the sources of finance and what have you. But the bit that tends to take a bit of time is collecting the primary data from the field. Because if you want data on operations and maintenance, it means that you must be speaking to the service providers, whether they are for hand pumps or they are also for pipe systems. And you also need household data, because also require household data to determine how much people are paying in terms of tariffs.
This was the WASH Systems Academy short video series. Find out more at washsystemsacademy.org.